Hey everyone, welcome back. Our guest today was actually on our very first podcast, Dario Svidler, who is the Executive Vice President of Compass and the founder of Partners CRE. Hey Dario.
Hey, John, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Always good to be back with you.
Yeah.
Even though from a distance.
I literally, like I said, you were our first at the office, and then this pandemic hits and we're on Zoom and we're having them now kind of on the regular. And I was just like, I gotta touch back with Dario. I gotta see what's going on. So yeah, that leads me into the first thing, just, from the time that we had you at our office and now it couldn't be worlds apart, movie script on steroids, right? So
World has changed.
So yeah, just for everyone, just catch me up on how you're doing and how the team's doing.
Sure. Our team is actually, listen, the first 2 months, as for most everybody, was pretty dead, right? I think people were sitting and holding, waiting to see what was going to happen. And so the first 2 months, we were just kind of sitting and waiting while deals were still in escrow. Our goal, I remember when first shelter in place hit, I had myself 6 deals in escrow.
Wow.
Unfortunately, only one fell out, and we were able to go back into escrow 2 months later anyway. So I didn't really see a hit. Now, our team does on average per year, let's say 50 to 60 escrows. Closes escrows, we do much more escrows that fall apart. So I still feel like we might get very close to those numbers. I just don't, it just feels different, right? The 2 months that we took off really hurt, but at the same time, in the last 30, 60 days, it's kind of picked up. So I think that there's been a lot of people just sitting on the sidelines and just saying to themselves, I can't wait any longer. I got to do work. I got to perform as the stock market is staying strong and government has restored some confidence in the capital markets. I just don't think people are seeing that big, edge of the cliff fall that we were once anticipating at the beginning. So, but who knows in the next 3 months what's going to happen as, winter comes and people are staying more at home and getting sicker. Who knows? I don't know. But I think that the confidence level, certainly on our team side, has been pretty decent. It has not, we've lost a couple guys that were just rookies and needed to go get a paying job. They didn't have enough in the pipeline to survive, which is also the very common in the industry. But overall, we've been kind of picking back up and thriving, I would say.
That's great to hear. Still working remotely.
Our offices are closed. Our offices are completely closed, supposedly until there's a vaccine. So the remote working has been tough. It's really just a hands-on, hand-holding type of business for our staff and agents.
Yeah.
But so there was a lot of, issues at the beginning, but I think we've kind of figured it out now, and it's tough. It is really tough maintaining that morale, maintaining that killer instinct in a time where you're cold calling from your kitchen desk, your kitchen table, and trying to figure it out. It's just been tough. It's been tough across the board, but the market itself has been, as strong is the wrong word because it's not, but it's been active.
It's been active. That's good. Yeah, I think that's been commonality too with a couple of our other guests as well. Let's talk more about kind of development now, because you again were one of the early adopters for us as well. You saw immediately with your background in development, right? And you understand the challenges of it. So, but opportunity as well, right? So
absolutely.
Those two go hand in hand. So, look, there's something I've been kind of preaching since kind of everything happened was redevelopment opportunity. Right. And so what we started seeing was developers are saying, hey, we're looking at a lot of these retail strip sites. They, it makes sense. They're C-zoned, corner lots, great square footage. Everything makes sense, right, on that level. And then I think those owners are feeling that pressure as well, right, on rents and their loans. And, read about Simon Property Group, which is crazy, trying to turn those empty JCPenney and Sears stores into Amazon fulfillment centers, which, it's wild, isn't it?
So, those big boxes are going to be destined to be screwed no matter what. I mean, the big boxes were dying anyway, you know?
Yeah.
And the kind of big boxes that are doing well even pre-pandemic are still going to be thriving, like a Home Depot type, Walmart, Target. Those are all going to still do well, but those mid-level, big box stores, obviously, that's predominantly sell clothing. They're tough. They're hurting. I grew up in Woodland Hills, and that's an area of malls.
Yeah,
And,
that's true.
And Westfield Mall, the Village and everything.
Center.
Yeah. There's a lot of big box out there.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly but surely over the years, we've been seeing them definitely readjust and go away. So I think this is just the accelerating factor for the big box business.
Right.
Needless to say, Amazon has exploded now with everyone getting things delivered at home. So I just think it was going to be a matter of time before the big box business completely adjusted. I just think it's weird that Amazon is doing fulfillment there, but
they're trying to get creative with that space.
Get creative, keep the parking lots full, let people think that there's people there, and they'll come.
Yeah.
I think that as long as people don't feel like the property is vacant, they feel comfortable going.
Right.
I think that's a kind of a fair assessment. So even though it's fulfillment, there's people coming in and out. There's staff. Not everybody's there locked in the box all day long. So at least there's movement and activity and action, which I think goes a long way.
That's great.
Those boxes are going to stay empty.
What about those Amazon stores? Didn't they have like the where you could kind of self-checkout? They ran like a pilot program, I think, in Seattle. That could always be an add-on to any of these malls as well, right?
Well, what you're going to see now more than ever is just self-checkout. Just the contact with the vendors and the retailers is going to definitely go way down.
Right.
I think that the advent of face recognition technology to be able to pay for stuff, and really embracing our kind of online buying profile is the future. I mean, the days of going to an indoor mall, whether without pandemic or not, was going away anyway.
Right.
So I just think that the less contact now we have going forward with a lot of these people, with a lot of these retailers, people still want to go out and shop. That's not going to change. It's just our social contact with the vendors is going to change drastically. And I think that the days of cash registers are probably going to go away. Like Apple was already embracing it with having the handhelds, right? So even though that's probably going to a little bit go away too, the days of touchless technology are going to be super advanced and super used.
I agree. So what are your thoughts about like the countless retail strips that are all around kind of
so we talked to a bunch of them. We talked to a bunch of them. And here's the benefit for them and why we're not going to see, in my opinion, a lot of defaults or bankruptcies, because all these retailers have been given a gift with a lot of these TOC and super density bonuses that they always knew their exit strategy was selling the land no matter what, right? Like we were working on a deal in the Palms Mar Vista area, where a tenant is an owner user in a supplies business, right? And needless to say, that business is dying. But on his site, the land was always worth more than the real estate. And so a lot of these guys, especially the owner users, whether their business is dying, usually they've owned it a long while and they can maintain through this and get another tenant that their businesses are dying.
Right.
The new tenants are going to make them survive, help them survive. And a lot of these retail land, based on the new rent control laws, has become a lot more desirable and a lot more valuable.
Right.
So at the same time, while their business is dying, the demand for their real estate is booming.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just a good segue to now going into multifamily is, I've been on a few of these kind of commercial observer webinars where I'm seeing all these owners saying, are you guys still, long in LA and Southern California? Or, there's articles every which way, right? That's the extreme. People are moving out in droves in New York City or San Francisco. That was already happening somewhat, but this is already happening. Accelerant. But does that mean multifamily is just dead, or it's just?
I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah.
So needless to say, I talk to every builder in town on a pretty, often basis.
Yeah.
Demand is insatiable. The demand is strong. The outlook is long. The quality of the Los Angeles marketplace compared to New York, San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, the major cities, LA has more going for itself in a pandemic time than any other city.
Agreed.
If you want to live if you want to live in the city and still have space, you can find it. You want to live central, you can find it. You want to have a 3-bedroom apartment, you can find it. And it's all relatively, depending on the area you want to live in, while not affordable, it is not exorbitant like in New York, San Francisco.
Right.
So in my opinion, even though as people are leaving, which there's, and if you look at the history of LA, like Hollywood, for example, in the last 5-10 years, they've lost people. They've lost residents. The net numbers is negative. So, but it depends how you look at those numbers, right? If you look at who's moving to LA, right, especially in a pandemic time, who you're chasing jobs here, you're chasing simplicity of life in the sense of like, you don't have to get in a car and drive 10 miles to go to the market. You don't have to go 3 miles to go to a shop. Everything is within your distance and everything is deliverable, right, within a 30-minute window.
Right.
So at the same time, even though some people would say, well, I want to move further away into more open land, well, it can also expose yourself to more people. So being in LA where everything is delivered, I can be very much protective. And I feel like a lot of even my discussions, even with my friends and colleagues that are, my age, that well-to-do, have a home, et cetera, what they're definitely looking more now more than ever is a secondary home. They're not necessarily looking to leave. So when you hear like Zillow and Redfin saying that they've had an uptick in people looking at homes in other cities, and that's why they're saying people are leaving. Right. Well, the conversation needs to be adjusted to say, well, how many of those people are looking for secondary homes? Exactly. Or how many people are sitting at home with a lot of time and thinking of what if, right? But they know they really won't do it, but what if we did do it? So I think that the conversation really needs to be adjusted to say, well, people might be looking for other things, but are they really, really moving? And in a time like pandemic, in a time where we're in, jobs is everything. And when you can't find a job in Riverside, you're going to stay in Los Angeles.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't really buy that people are moving out. I think if it's obviously New York, people are leaving because it's a different animal. You cannot find space. Yeah. In San Francisco, you cannot find space.
Right.
In LA, space is everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that actually LA is going to become a lot more desirable over the next 12, 24 months, more so than it's ever been.
Yeah.
So I actually
agree more.
Yeah. I actually think being bullish on development is very smart, because even still to these days, like we had a building that we just sold, new construction, and it leased up in the first 35 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Fast. Yeah.
It's fast. And then we have another building that's being finished as well, that's leasing up. I think that demand is there. I think certainly amenities are important these days for new development. I think that a lot of these amenities have become a lot more desirable. I have a few friends, for example, that moved to Circa, that tall building in downtown.
Yes.
They moved in during pandemic because of all the amenities that they have. So
they don't have to leave.
They don't have to leave.
Yeah.
They're working from home. They can stay from home, and they want all the amenities in the building.
Right.
Because they know at least even in that building, everybody that can afford that rent has a job and is also trying not to get sick. Right. So I think that the care factor is actually a little bit more controllable in a bigger building.
Right. We actually spoke with Steven Anderson too. And so he was saying that some of the developers are now, all they're doing is their time windows are still, 4, 5, 6 years long. So they already see past this pandemic.
They've already seen past it.
Yeah. But the adjustments they're saying is, now we see instead of just a full lobby or a full floor being co-working, how about if we create or design a home office, right? Like literally based on design, instead of us just like where I'm at, it's just, the bedroom gets converted to a office, right? But they're being mindful of design and going, okay, well, if these things come up in the future or if people are just comfortable remote working, right? It's just a normal part of business moving forward, then we should focus on that design amenity.
Couldn't agree more.
And that's why.
Couldn't agree more. I have a client that just finished the building, and they were going to have a full kind of common area that was just going to be a lounge. Instead, they converted it to co-working.
Perfect. Exactly. So now, so here's one thing also, though, in LA. I absolutely agree. I think LA versus San Francisco, New York, any of those cities, you just represent a diverse everything, like even geographic. If you want to live in the mountains, it's right there. Beach, right there. We have everything that's suburban or fully urban available here. So absolutely. But, obviously, development is challenging here. I mean, there's multiple reasons. I know you're very well aware of those as well, but you have, they're all subject to hearings. They're all subject to a lot of red tape that, obviously we try to help disclose in the beginning, but still, there's still red tape that you have to address in that, and also in the entitlement. So given kind of the environment right now, what do you recommend would be some good ways to kind of change things or improve things? I think this is the first time that maybe even politically people are willing to maybe redo some of the processes that wasn't working, hopefully, but.
I mean, that's a loaded question, obviously.
I know, right?
It's pretty sad, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now that, at first planning seemed to be a little bit more available, not anymore.
No.
Every project is being delayed.
Right.
6 months minimum. And I'm talking about easy projects, like a fourplex project. Used to be able to entitle that in 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Now the long look is 12 months.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think the political landscape of what we're seeing on the development side is very slow. Mm-hmm. It is not being updated quickly. I mean, the Hollywood community plan's taking how long now, and they just released a copy, and it's still not fully implemented. Yeah. So, and then you have the issues with CRA going away, but now RPA is taking over, so it's really going away.
Yes.
Then, needless to say, all the Garcetti talk about redoing all the community plans.
Mm-hmm. That's all talk. There hasn't been any real movement, or
there isn't. There is no movement.
Yeah.
And it's slower and more costly, and it is not changing anytime soon. That's the speed at which the political is catching up with demand is night and day. They are not having a conversation together. So much so that even I remember before pandemic, I went to an event with Garcetti, and he was talking to this whole big game about expediting and yada. Nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing happened from that.
Unless we get into a real conversation to say that the city of LA is failing on the units count, mm-hmm. and somebody comes in and says, I don't care what the community say, we're building, and the state level really gets aggressive, nothing's going to change. It's just nowhere near that conversation.
Yeah.
And it's pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll give you a great example.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I understand both sides of the coin. Mm-hmm. Where I'm working on a project that's in escrow to mm-hmm. build. It's an acre site to build a few hundred affordable units. The buyer is an affordable builder. Mm-hmm. I was actually at an event with the state treasurer and the buyer where we were discussing this project because mm-hmm. they're trying to put it all together. Mm-hmm. There's, apart from the fact that the process to get funded from the state is a friggin' nightmare.
Yes.
There's also a couple historical bungalows on the property.
Oh no.
So needless
past that, yeah.
Yeah, and you cannot, and it's not actually I think about they're not officially historical, but in California, bungalows are super protected.
You still got to go through the process of screening it through the board. Yeah.
You still got to go through the process.
Yeah.
So to be able to change a site that's an acre with mm-hmm. 20 units on there that could be 200 or 300 units is probably not going to happen, and it's already been in the process for 12 months.
Oh, wow.
So when we talk about affordable housing, mm-hmm. what is the city really doing to make it happen? We even had a meeting with the council member, and he says, yes, you do affordable housing, I'll support you, but you got to go get local support first. You got to get everything approved first, and then we'll discuss the historical issue. Well, how am I going to spend money before knowing the historical issue?
Exactly. Yeah.
Not dumb. So I think that you get into these issues where the city talks and wants, mm-hmm. but it's just failing miserably at every possible step.
Agreed. Can't agree more. I think
I sold the property to the city of LA in the right before pandemic.
Yeah.
I sold a property to the city of LA in Boyle Heights that is being bought by, essentially being bought for metro purposes while they're building the metro to be a storage site.
Oh, nice.
And then once they're finished, they're going to turn it into a pocket park.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good.
Sounds great, right?
Yeah.
How many departments did I just speak of? Exactly.
Too many.
It took 6 months to sell an 8,000 square foot lot.
Oh my God.
6 months.
Oh my God.
Because not only do we have multiple meetings with Public Works, Parks
mm-hmm.
and Rec,
mm-hmm.
planning.
Right.
Okay. The property was also in REAP. Right. So the property's in REAP. The city could be able to take it out.
Yes.
But Parks and Rec says we don't have control over the REAP department. Right. We have to get clearances from multiple departments.
Wow.
Right. So this is the biggest problem that I see with the city.
I see it too.
Because they're right now, mm-hmm. With like Project Room Key and whatnot.
Yeah.
The process is so damaged mm-hmm. by the fact that every department has to sign off, and every department has to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
Right? In normal times,
mm-hmm.
we can manage.
Right.
In emergency times, that mm-hmm. is a problem.
It
And
is.
that's where the failure is happening, not only on a local level, but a state level and federal level, is that the process to get anything money spent and approved is a nightmare.
Yeah. I kind of have this thought that there should be a bill now, and I think pre-pandemic, it probably would never have passed, but I think now is the opportunity for it, is some sort of comprehensive bill that comes out locally that just says, okay, here's how we've done a test pilot of getting an entitlement workflow through faster, cutting
Yeah.
through all that fat, all the different departments, all there. Well, it takes us 2 weeks at this department, and you can't go anywhere. Like you can't
Right.
just do, it's almost end to end, these
Yes,
processes,
you
right?
should.
That's why it's such an extended period. It should be together. You should be able to go together with different
You
departments
should
at
be.
the same time.
And like what's great about TOC being able to build affordable housing
Yeah.
without parking, I'm
On
getting
that
a lot
too.
of for-profit developers calling
Yeah.
me for these kinds of
Yeah,
sites.
yeah.
But then it's just a regular entitlement process, going to take you minimum 12 years, for 6 months to get your determination letter.
Exactly.
Then you got to go to public building and safety.
Yes.
So you're already bringing the cost way up.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be buying obviously land in inferior, poor locations.
To
But
make
at the end
up
of
for
the
that.
yeah, but at the same time, when you're building in inferior locations, you're not building mixed use. You're building straight up apartments,
Right.
probably no parking. So you're sure you're adding housing to the stock,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not creating a viable, livable lifestyle in that area, because now people are chasing the bottom line.
Exactly.
So I think it's a catch-22, no matter how you do it, unless we get some kind of a real estate czar that comes in and says, I don't answer to the different council members and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
This is what needs to get done.
Exactly.
I can supersede, because every council member doesn't want it in their neighborhood, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I'll give you an example. I'm working with Project Room Key.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big hotel in a part of town that is up and coming, but not really. 200 keys, sellers ready to sell.
Mm-hmm.
The council member said no.
Wow. Why? What was the
He
reason?
didn't like it in that pocket.
No.
No joke. There's a housing massive shortage, and he said, no, that property's in too good of a location.
Too good a location.
No joke. No joke.
Oh man.
That's the sadness of the problem that we have, is that there is too many moving parts, too many opinions, and too many people with their own agendas.
Agreed.
Right. So like I'm in the conversation with with HCI DLA, because now they're starting to buy some more.
Yeah.
But they're handcuffed as well, because they got to deal with council members and they got to deal with other
before it's authorized for the purchase.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think with Project Room Key, we bought a few thousand keys for a problem with 55,000 homeless people, and that's not really doing much.
Yeah. Drop in the bucket, right?
The drop in the bucket.
Yeah. Well, look, I think more work to be done, but the one takeaway I do have is, I think given the scenario now, there is movement from what my partner Alex has been saying on getting it faster and better, but who knows, right? This talk has been going on for a while, but definitely needs improvement, because there's so much demand and need here in LA. We need to get on the program.
We need a better process. We need to revamp our entire system.
Absolutely.
Because it's failing. It's what keeps rents high.
I agree. More inventory, diversity of different product out there, the natural market will react, and the rents will.
There's a real simple rule for development.
Yeah.
If I cannot get over $3 a foot, it cannot be built.
Right.
That's simple. I can't get $3 in rent, and even that's low these days. I cannot build the project.
Right.
So what does $3 in rent do? It means it's high. It's for the most part high-end housing.
Exactly. Well, okay. So I just want to, last thing I want to kind of cover is, so in the industry that you're in, and you are one of the top producing brokers, teams, everything, right? And so what do you see in your industry right now? How is it going to change, right? I'm talking about commercial real estate, agents, brokers, teams out there doing different, covering different asset classes and stuff. Yeah. Obviously everyone's working remote because they had to. Do you see that still happening post a vaccine? Do you think everyone gets out to normal? What is kind of the landscape that you see in the next?
I think a lot of people are going to be leaving the industry. I think there's going to be a mass exodus. Number one, all the retail brokers are going to be gone. All the office brokers are going to be gone. Right. I think really the only saving grace is multifamily, land, and industrial.
Right.
And not a lot of people are going to be jumping into the industry. So actually, we're going to contract on the size of the brokerage business. Even our own Compass, we had a round of kind of layoffs on the staff, but also layoff on agents that were producing.
Marcus Millichap, there's a lot that have.
Yeah, everyone's kind of doing some layoffs and really focusing on the the
core teams.
Cream. The creme de la creme, whatever. Right. So I think that's going to be a big issue. We're seeing people leaving the industry. We're seeing a lot of these companies now having a reason to consolidate offices and reduce their footprints.
I see.
So that's going to be a big thing. I think, even though I think that for commercial, at least certainly for my team, the remote work from home won't last. As soon as we can go back into the office, we're going back to the office. That energy, just the whole day process is so enhanced by our communication and being right next to each other. So I think once there's a vaccine or our offices open up, we're going back in. Now, when we had a quick opening like about a month ago, I went into the office and realized, well, I'm not being productive in my office because all my stuff is now at home. So at this point, I don't see myself going back into the office until my entire staff goes back.
Got it.
So at this point, I'm working from home.
Yeah.
I got into the industry in the world financial crisis. In 2008-9 is when I got into it. And it's now, obviously I was younger and wet behind my ears at that point, but it definitely feels different today than it did back then. Right? We're not seeing defaults like we used to. We're not seeing bankruptcies like we used to. We're seeing them, but not like how they used to be.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's been such a bull market in real estate that every person that I talk to, for the most part, has holding power.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere.
Right.
So what I definitely feel is there's a pause for the people that aren't as fortunate as our group may be, or as some of the more successful groups. You're going to see them go away, but the successful groups are going to stay in and thrive. If all goes as planned and we close our year out the way I expect it to, we're going to do better than last year.
That's great. That's awesome.
So at the same, so it might be maybe a little bit less transaction, maybe bigger transactions, but I see us as, once the pandemic ends or vaccine comes in, pandemic will never end, but once the vaccines are coming out, we will definitely run back to our offices and get back into that mix. But it will definitely change in as much as that. I think the biggest conversation for us is just quality of life.
Yeah.
So I think that even though we're hungry and want to work, there's certain changes that we've made into our life that are going to stick around for a while. Yeah. Right? Like when we discuss working out or what have you. These are changes that I feel are going to be long-term changes, right? People are going to feel like they need to spend more time at home with their families, spend more vacation time. So I think that the morale, once we open back up, is going to spike for personal reasons, not necessarily for business reasons. I feel like at this point, we've all kind of gotten used to this life, right? So I think that once it opens up, we're going to look for more quality of life rather than more quality of business. So I definitely feel that aspect of it. But as far as our business goes, and as far as what we see in the immediate to near future, is I feel like once there's a vaccine, or at least a handful of vaccines, and people are opening back up, I think LA is going to pop right back up. I think rents are going to climb again. Yeah. I think demand is insatiable. I think that when people look at world markets, they're going to say that Los Angeles is one of the safest markets to be in. So I can't speak for the rest of the country. And obviously I'm biased because I live in LA and work in LA. Right. But I can't see such a big gap from, I just see that we're going to pick right back up. The demand is going to be insatiable. I think there's going to be a construction boom. I actually think that there's going to be a movement boom. I actually think that the life in Los Angeles is changing for the better. I think that we're going to make our spaces and restaurants and whatnot, even though all the restaurants are going to go out of business, the outdoor lifestyle is changing. People want to spend more time outside. People want to have more sun, more opportunity to breathe fresh air. So that entire scope of how we approach businesses is going to be very different. I think that the co-working business model is going to come back. The co-living model, which we've sold a lot of land for co-living, their rental rates are staying strong. Their vacancies are low. Sure, they've had to adjust some of their rents, as you would assume, but as long as they keep their tenant base in, they're going to do just fine. So I feel like it's a hold that is not going to be making a long scale term effect on the fundamentals of Los Angeles real estate.
I can't agree more, and I think that question that I even asked you, and obviously it's been a common one throughout, is the wrong question to ask, because it's as if now we're not going to be in the office, or we're not going to want to collaborate or co-live, co-work. Like all of that was booming pre-pandemic reason. But we can't blame that for what's going on. I think the response, the testing, the tracing, the leadership has failed us. Though you're right, epically failed, right? So if all we need to do post-vaccine is improve that part, right? So we could all still collaborate, still work, still boom, still go forward. But what we need to learn is let's not let that happen again. So that obviously requires better.
Well, the thing is, what I think is also great for the co-living business and the co-working business is they have incentive to be cleaner and more disinfectant and more like all the co-living sites that we've sold and existing co-living buildings that we've seen. They're just small. I mean, they have an ensuite bathroom in their bedroom, and these people either stay in their bedroom or they leave the building.
Exactly.
They're not hanging around all day long. And even like if you go on any given day to one of these co-living properties, though they have the co-working spaces, they're not full. They're not being used extreme.
Right. Because there's that flexibility. They're not just there mulling around.
Flexibility. They want to live in prime locations, walkability, and for the most part, they're self-employed where they run around. They're either employed, distance employed, meaning that they work for a company that they don't have to be in. So they're constantly moving around. So I think that demand is going to still be strong. I think that the co-living, co-working business is going to be very strong. They're developing and they're building, and by the time they come online anyway, we're probably going to be past the pandemic for the most part anyway. So I don't see that as a negative. In fact, we're constantly dealing with all the co-living companies. They're constantly. I would say they probably took a break at the beginning of the pandemic. I would say that. They probably took. I would say they're probably starting to buy again. I would say they probably took a 4 to 6 month break, but I think they realized that the numbers have held strong, that the demand is still very strong, and that they need to keep building in order to fit the demand that Los Angeles has.
Absolutely. It's just they're going to adjust with what happened, and those were, we're all better for it anyway. So I absolutely agree.
Some would even think that they're safer. They're all these co-livings, they're curated. They have on-site staff. So they're constantly cleaning throughout the day. You go to any co-living place and they're clean anyway.
They're cleaner than most people.
They're cleaner than most places,
in offices or homes.
So I'm like I said, I'm extremely bullish on LA. I don't think that demand is going away anytime soon. I will say land prices have definitely come down. Adjustment and values have definitely come down. Apartment values haven't really come down. They probably held. So some would say that they look a little bit more attractive, but that's because they haven't been raising the prices as much in the last year. But land values have definitely come down. I mean, I'm seeing at least a 10% discount across the board.
That's great. I mean, that's opportunity, right? So for any developer right now, to even outside of LA, we've seen a pickup of requests of users for Brick+Work that are from Texas and from some other places that would normally, and New York developers are starting to come here, right? So the movement in there, and so they're just like, okay, we got capital to place, and LA seems like a great place and a great fit for some of their development.
Without a question.
All right, Dario. Well, it was great. Talking with you again. It's again, super appreciate the time. Lost some weight there, so motivation for me to.
Come on, let's do it. Well, I appreciate it. Anytime having me is always a great conversation with you, John.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dario. And see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.